Today I'm going to walk you through the steps of completing the BCBA candidate documentation. So if you're looking to become a BCBA and you want to document your supervision, I'm going to help you and hopefully answer some of the questions that often come up. You can find your forms on the BACB website. So you go to bacb.com, click on credentials, and click on BCBA. On this page, you scroll down and you see the BCBA documents and resources. Scroll down and the monthly and final fieldwork verification forms. These are the two forms that you're going to need to complete. The monthly fieldwork verification form is filled out every month, and the final fieldwork verification form is only filled out at the end of your supervised experience. So if you change supervisors during your experience, you'll fill this out for each of your experiences. There's one set of forms for the individual supervisor and a different one for an organization with multiple supervisors. For the sake of today's demonstration, I'm going to use the individual supervisor. So when you click on this, it pops up in a new tab. You can start typing online, but you often will lose the information that you've entered when you download it. So I'm going to download this first. I'm just going to save that. And now that I have it opened up in Adobe, I'll be able to save it. So you enter in the training name, that's yours. You enter in your BACB account ID number. You find that in the BACB Gateway account, the month and the year. And then you choose your fieldwork type based on which criteria you met for the month. So we'll look at the supervised fieldwork, the state where the fieldwork occurred. So if you and your supervisor don't live in the same state, you enter in the state where you did the work, and then the country where the fieldwork occurred. You enter in your supervisor's name. You enter in their certification number or their BACB account ID. You choose their qualification. Most often it's going to be a BCBA or a BCBAD, but there are a couple of other options. So whichever one is appropriate for you. Now the independent hours are your supervisor not present. Remember, you have to count at least 20 hours per month, but not more than 130 total hours per month. So if you are, if you want to count 130 hours total, that's 6.5 hours of your supervisor being present. And that would equal, 123.5 hours to get you to 130 hours total and 5% supervision. Now, your supervisor may have been present for more, and that's fine too, but you have to cut back on the number of independent hours if that's the case. So if your supervisor was present for 10 hours, you can only count 120 independent hours. So as long as this totals not more than 130 hours, you're fine. This must be for the independent, your supervised fieldwork, not the concentrated fieldwork. But for the supervised fieldwork, this must be at least 5%. If it's the concentrated supervised fieldwork, this must equal at least 10%. So make sure that this number here is not more than 130 hours or is at least 20 hours. And that this fits the fieldwork type that you selected up here. Then you scroll down and you're going to sign it. You're going to add the date, and the signatures should be within the month following the experience. So if you're documenting your experience for September, then the form should be signed before the end of October. I try to get all of my documents signed by the end of the first week of the following month. So you want to make sure that that's happening. Now, the BACB also requires that you're documenting all of the different tasks that you're completing during your independent field work. So they require that you include information about, or you document information that includes the date, the start and end time of your activities, your fieldwork type, your setting name, your supervisor's name, the activity category, and the summary of the activity. So let's look at it. Today's September 12th, 2022. And if I was doing some direct work with clients, let's say I did some direct work with clients this morning from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30, from 9:30 a.m. The fieldwork type, remember this is either the supervised fieldwork or the concentrated supervised fieldwork. The setting name, and you can use your clinic's name or wherever it happens to be that you were working. Your supervisor's name, the activity category. So this is either restricted or unrestricted. And then the summary of activities. So we worked on man training. We worked on reducing maladaptive behavior. Maybe we conducted a preference assessment. List out just the main things that you did and include it there. And you're going to do that for every one of your different activities. So if later in the day, let's say from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Let's say I did some research. Let's say I researched PFA and SBT because this is something that my supervisor wants to use with the client that I saw earlier. So you're going to document all of these different tasks. Now, in your supervised hours, you're going to document similar information, but you're going to include just the ones where your supervisor was present. So let's say yesterday, at 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Format is online or in person. Generally speaking, it might be something different depending on your situation. But let's say the supervisor was present and in person. Fieldwork type is again the supervised fieldwork or the concentrated supervised fieldwork. Your supervision type. I've included instructions here. So supervision type would be individual or group. So your activity category, again, restricted or unrestricted. We're going to say this was a meeting. Observation with client, no. And then we're going to just write a summary of some of the supervision activities. So maybe we reviewed PFA and SBT. Might be a lot of other things that are also included in that. So make sure that you're thorough in your documentation. You don't need to list out everything else that you've done, but it is helpful to be pretty detailed in the things that you're doing, especially for your unrestricted hours. You want to be able to, in the event of an audit, justify you counting those as unrestricted hours. So make sure that you're documenting all of that. At the end of every experience, you're going to need to document your final fieldwork verification. So it's very similar. Again, you can either have the individual supervisor or an organization with multiple supervisors. For the sake of this, actually, I'll show you both. So for the individual supervisor, you enter your trainee name, your BACB ID number, your start date, your end date for this particular experience. Supervised fieldwork or your concentrated supervised fieldwork, the state where the fieldwork occurred, the country where it occurred. The BACB does allow you to combine different types between the supervised and the concentrated supervised fieldwork. So there's some in the handbook that you can download. There's a formula you can use to figure out how many hours you need. It does make the documentation a little bit trickier. You will need different forms for each one. So you're going to write out your fieldwork hours. This is a total of all of your independent hours. So you're going to take your monthly fieldwork verification form and you're going to just total all of those hours. You can also, if you add in a column on your fieldwork documentation system to count the number of hours. So I might say that this one is, maybe I'll add 2. Restricted hours. And we'll add in another column for unrestricted. So you could add in columns under the independent and the supervised. And so if you add in the total number of hours, you can do a sum for the column and be able to add your hours that way. Otherwise, you can use your monthly fieldwork verification to add them all up. So remember, you're going to need a total of 2,000 hours for the supervised fieldwork and 1,500 hours for your concentrated supervised fieldwork. So make sure that this number is at least 2,000 hours and that this number is at least 5%. And you want to check to make sure that if this includes prorated hours for partial months, because the BACB will calculate whether or not it's possible for you to reach the entire, your entire 2,000 hours in the months that you've said, if that makes any sense. So again, you want to play with the numbers, but make sure that it all comes out correct. You're going to enter in your supervisor's name, their certification number or BACB account number, and the qualifications, just like you do on the monthly forms. Then your supervisor is going to sign this form and they're going to date it. You want to make sure that the documentation is complete as soon after your experience as possible. Now let's take a look at the final fieldwork verification form with multiple supervisors. This one looks just a little bit different. You need to list out each of the different supervisors who are part of that organization, but you're still going to enter in your total fieldwork hours and your supervised hours. Then the responsible supervisor is going to sign and date. So only one of the supervisors will be signing the form. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Make sure to reach out with any questions, and good luck to all of you on your journey on becoming certified as a BCBA.